Tonight on News 5 Live, DPM Hugo Patt says he's content with being the second in command of the UDP and is not aspiring for the leadership. But will Patrick Farber make another leadership bid? That is under consideration. We revisit the incriminating text messages between John Saldivar and Jacob Kingston. Calls for an investigation on Saldivar are mounting. President of the militant BNTU, Elena Smith, says it is time to take action against corruption. Rodwell Arzu is arrested and charged for the July 2019 murder of Geraldine Flowers in Dangriga, and meet the super baby and super dad of BFLA's Maternal and Child Healthcare Center. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast. Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live for Friday, February 14th. I am Charlie Hutchinson. In 4 short days, the internal chaos in the Barrow administration and the United Democratic Party has brought embarrassment and humiliation. With the resignation of John Saldivar from cabinet on Thursday and his removal as leader-elect of the UDP, there is a leadership void to be filled in the UDP's succession plan. A majority of area representatives and standard bearers who supported Saldivar in the National Party Convention are turning to Deputy Prime Minister Patt as their candidate of choice going forward. But the Corozal North area representative and Minister of Natural Resources won by the biggest margin at the UDP National Convention, but he's content with being the second in command of the ruling party, which leaves the top seat vacant. Is the UDP now willing to look at former Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Farber as its future leader? Earlier today, we spoke with DPM Patt, who said that notwithstanding his brief stints as acting Prime Minister, he is not yet as prepared to take up the mantle in a full-time capacity.
As a politician, in the absence of campaign finance regulations, what for you is perhaps the biggest lesson learned in all of what has happened over the past several weeks?
I agree that there would have to be some sort of regulations, if I may call it that way, for us to be able to have a more open and transparent way in how our parties get funding. As I said, as we speak right now, the nature of politics is basically that solicitation of funds. As you would have genuine people who are willing to support political parties, you would have people, like in the case of Leverman, that really were engaged in illicit activities. And so I think going forward, that is something that we would have to look at.
It would seem now that in the wake of Minister Saldivar's resignation, that perhaps a majority of those who supported him are now turning to you if you would accept a bid for leadership of the United Democratic Party. Is that a consideration on your part at this point? I
submitted my name as a candidate for the position of First Deputy Party Leader. I am thankful for all the support that I receive, and I thank God for being afforded this opportunity. I am now the First Deputy Party Leader of the UDP, and that's about as much as I can say today.
You have, however, gotten your feet wet in the driver's seat, in a manner of speaking. The PM has left the country on previous occasions and has left you in charge of running the affairs of the nation. Is that any indication that perhaps it's something that you would want to take up?
It's only as a village boy, like I'm being sold out, if I could say, by some of the media houses. I don't think that it is a responsibility or a duty that I would run away. Certainly, governing a country would require for me or for any candidate to make sure that you have our own advisors and the right type of people in different capacities to be able to govern. I don't think any president, any prime minister would be a one-woman show or a one-man show. You have to have a team of advisors to be able to run a country. And so that is my 2 cents in this particular case.
While his stock went up on Sunday, Patt had a very bad day on Wednesday with the press. Today, he admits that the situation that befell former cabinet colleague John Saldivar was avoidable had he chosen to come clean about the money he was getting from Leverman. When asked if he has second thoughts about joining Team Saldivar, Patt told News 5 that while the situation is most unfortunate, the issue of campaign finance reform is of utmost importance.
In retrospect, we want to be thankful to all the delegates that supported us in the convention, and as well for those who did not, we are here to show our support across the board. In terms of the series of events, I think everybody has known what has been through the news and what decisions the Prime Minister has taken. So as much as I can say is we respect what decision has been taken, and from there we'll move on. No?
Do you have any second thoughts having joined this particular slate or lent your support to Mr. Saldivar in light of all that has happened since Sunday?
No, sir. I think the situation with Minister Saldivar was very unfortunate. Look, I don't think there is a political party here in Belize that can survive without the sponsorship of either individuals or through entities. This is the nature of politics in Belize. I mean, solicitation for campaign financing is part of all political parties, not only in Belize, but in the entire globe. And so that whenever you meet individuals who, in speaking to them without having a knowledge of, particularly when you meet foreigners, you don't know what their background is, you would think that these are genuine people. So that whenever you get any kind of assistance for campaign purposes, we go by what we basically are being told. Or if we do a background check in Belize, many a times you would find that these individuals have not had any kind of incident in country. I think the case with John, it was very unfortunate. He so happened to be sponsored by people who were doing illicit business, and I think that was one of the issues with John. And secondly, he did not admit that this is the nature of how politics operate and how political parties operate, and this is not unique to Belize.
So with Patt not willing to offer himself for party leader, is he prepared to lend his support to Patrick Farber or any other interested candidate? Here's what Patt had to say about that prospect.
Since you are not opting or considering at this point to offer yourself for candidacy for the leadership of the party, if any other member of cabinet or the National Assembly were to offer him or herself, including the Honorable Patrick Farber, have you considered where you'd lend your support?
You have a number of good candidates in cabinet, and I think we, as a party, would still enjoy very capable people who are able to manage the affairs of the country. And as I said, I have every trust and confidence in the outstanding performance of Prime Minister, and any person who happens to become the next party leader-elect will enjoy the kind services and advice of our now Prime Minister and the Honorable Dean Barwan. So that in itself is an asset, and I think that anybody vying for this position and who happens to be elected will have that advantage on him or her.
With the post of leadership now wide open, former Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Farber, who was defeated by John Saldivar on Sunday, is considering whether tossing his hat in the ring for a second time is in fact an option he wants to pursue in the weeks ahead. While he admits that time is running, the college area representative says that he will decide his mind over the course of the weekend and should have a formal response in the early part of next week. The experience of the past few days, he says, has taught him a lot about the inner dynamics of party politics.
Where do you stand in all of this? I would gather that you have had some time to sit down and contemplate what your next move is. I know you put your heart and soul into the convention of Sunday, and while it never materialized in your favor, perhaps there's still another opportunity for you to offer yourself once again.
Well, I've said publicly, and it really is my position, that I will use the next few days, especially over this weekend, to do my own reflection. I will be genuine with people and say that, in fact, Sunday's convention was a lesson learned for me in many respects. And so I will put all the pieces together, and of course I've been talking to my colleagues. I've met with the party leader, the Right Honorable Dean Barrow, as well, and I have been trying to see how well I can put all of this together to determine whether or not I will place my name in the ring again. I hope to do so by early next week. I was thinking maybe Monday, but it would seem that a little bit more consultation would be needed. Quite a few of my colleagues have taken off. You know, we've been involved with this campaign for a few weeks, and so this is the first free and available weekend. So it may be difficult to touch base with some of them, or at least all of them, on this weekend. So I'm looking at some point by Tuesday or Wednesday or so of making my final determination of whether or not I am going to contest.
I'll ask you a question, and I will expect from you, sir, an earnest response. You
believe I have not been giving you my earnest responses so far?
You have been giving me your earnest response, but this is a particularly tough question I will ask you.
Okay.
Going into Sunday, you were rather confident on the heels of the gala event you held the night before at the Biltmore that
Absolutely.
the vote of the delegates would have gone in your favor.
Yeah.
When the actual count following the election on Sunday did not seem to be in your favor, and the announcement was made that, in fact, your opponent had won the convention, what was your immediate feeling?
Well, there was a feeling of disappointment, absolutely. I think that even during the day, while the voting proceeded, I didn't get a distinct impression that we were behind, and that must have meant that, in fact, quite a few people who I had hoped were going to vote in my favor did not. It had to mean, in fact, that there were some people who were disingenuous, but this is what politics is. We do our best, and I certainly did my best in terms of getting out to these delegates, the voters in the convention, and I tried my very best to persuade them that I ought to be given the chance to be the new leader of the party. But ultimately, as you've pointed out, when the ballots were counted at the end of the day, I was not the victor. And while that was very disheartening for me, it was not the end, and I certainly immediately embraced those results. You saw me stand with my colleagues on the stage and immediately offered my congratulations to the victor, and of course pledged my support for the party continuously so that we could unite against our common enemy, which is the PUP, of course.
The national president of the powerful Belize National Teachers Union, Senator Elena Smith, says that it is time to take action against corruption. The BNTU is the latest body to speak out against the Saldivar scandal. In a matter of 4 days, Saldivar was stripped as leader-elect of the UDP, and after a brief suspension, he resigned from cabinet responsibilities. Saldivar says he hopes that he regains the confidence of the public and the support of cabinet once he has cleared his name. But that's going to be very difficult now that the exchange of texts between Jacob Kingston and himself have come to light, in which he requests the usual tranche of $25,000 from Lev Derman. For the BNTU, the decision to suspend him prior to his resignation is a mere slap on the wrist and unacceptable.
It's appalling to say the least, and you are well aware that BNTU from 2016 had called for the resignation of said minister because of the Mason matter. And we are now in 2020 and we have reached that point again. So I guess because of the fact that he has resigned, then there would not be a call for him to be terminated anyway. But I think one of the important things that we have to put out there is the fact that if it is that he is resigning and taxpayers' monies will be used to pay him as he continues to his role as a representative, I suppose that is fine. But if we are going to be paying him and he's no longer there, then that's a concern. And I'm saying if because we don't know what will be the details of when he leaves from there. Other than that, the other concern is as it relates to the impact or the black eye that it has caused on the country of Belize. We know that this is now international, and it really doesn't look good for us to have persons in these high positions to be accused of meddling in such behavior. You cannot just have a person at this highest level involved or allegedly involved in these sorts of behavior and they get a slap on the wrist. It can't continue to happen. It can't continue to be working.
The Prime Minister during his press conference said that he would fire if one of the two aspirants for leadership would have been proven, if that would be somebody that received cash. Now, John Saldivar, his name has been called in the U.S. District Court of Utah. Text messages have been revealed, and the Prime Minister has suspended him indefinitely and not necessarily fired Mr. Saldivar. What's the union take on that?
Well, hence I said people do these things so they get a slap on the wrist. Because if you're saying that once these persons are proven, I mean, I'm sure we've seen proof now. And so what has kept the government from firing him? He was given a chance to resign. We support an investigation, and it's not just investigation into his actions. Other names were called. We heard about the mayor in Belapan, and we heard this talk about getting monies for 4 other persons. Who are those persons, and what will happen to those persons? Is it that we are going to be shielding them forever So investigation must happen, and at the end of that, then swift action must be taken. And it cannot just be slight action that will be taken. It has to be something that will show that we will not tolerate these sorts of behaviors. It doesn't matter who it is.
Is the union considering joining the opposition in their national demonstration in 1 or 2 weeks? And do you believe that it's time for a national demonstration?
Well, again, as you know, BNTU does not take part in these sorts of partisan political activities. From time to time, we do know that when the union has these actions, that we are joined by whoever is in opposition, and we have no control over that. But for us to go out there and say we are joining them, it's not something that we do. We do believe that, yes, action needs to be taken. Too many things have happened, and our people, the Belizean people have been very quiet. We've not been taking a stance the way we are to, looking at what has happened. And so for us, we believe that action needs to be taken. Whether we are going to be taking action and when is a different matter.
Coming up, calls are mounting for an investigation of the embattled John Saldivar following the release of those damning text messages. Tonight, we revisit those text exchanges between John Saldivar and Jacob Kingston that were presented as exhibits in a Utah court on Tuesday. The texts that went viral and have become the butt of all jokes and memes establish a relationship between Saldivar and Jacob Kingston and left Derman, the accused fraudster for whom Saldivar sought the usual $25,000. Since their release on Thursday, News 5 contacted Saldivar via WhatsApp for comment. We asked the Belmopan area representative if he still denies allegations of wrongdoing, but our message was left unseen. The court documents from Salt Lake City shows communications between Kingston and Saldivar on February 11, 2014. The text messages reveal that he agreed to go to Miami to collect $50,000 on February 12th to pick up the cash from an associate called Daryl. The documents show that Saldivar initiated the texting with Kingston, telling him that he is nervous because he had not heard from Derman. Saldivar tells Kingston that 4 of his candidates have been successful in conventions and that he is out of cash. This was on February 11, 2014. And during that time, there were no reported conventions. Saldivar tells Kingston that he needs the February tranche and that wiring the money would not be a good idea. Arrangements are made for Saldivar to receive the cash in Miami the following day. Saldivar tells Kingston that the usual is $25,000. What sticks out is that in that sentence is the word usual. One can interpret that usual would mean that this is not the first time that Derman had provided cash to Saldivar. In fact, it would appear that Saldivar had received cash from Derman on other occasions. In this case, it appears to have been $25,000 US per month, as he also collected the March tranche. Saldivar writes that 4 of his colleagues also benefited from Derman's cash. The 4 remain unnamed. The unions and private sector have been calling for an investigation into Saldivar, the Belmopan Mayor Khalid Bilal, and others, and want to know more about the campaign funds. Like Saldivar, the Prime Minister has not answered questions from the media, but we will keep insisting. In the face of those damning text messages, the Belize network of NGOs is also calling on the Barrow administration to take all necessary steps to immediately introduce campaign finance legislation. The BNN says this will set out transparency and parameters on how funds are provided to political parties and candidates vying for public office. Senator for NGOs Osmani Salas is urging the government to introduce the legislation before the passage of the budget for the new fiscal year. Salas is also calling on the Prime Minister to order that the Financial Intelligence Unit immediately investigate all the allegations involving Saldivar and any other politicians who have been implicated in the receipt of Derman funds.
It is high time that once and for all we address this issue of campaign financing. It will not be a straightforward, easy matter, but legislation is sorely needed. Discussions are needed to determine what all should be covered. It has been too long where money that has been secured many a time from highly questionable sources, external sources, have financed elections and campaigns in this country. That in itself is not good for a nation, because then, as most of us would understand, who pays the piper calls the tune. And who should be calling the tune should be the voters of this country. When I heard the Prime Minister in his previous press conference say something to the effect that, much to his chagrin, this country does not have campaign finance legislation, the first thing that came to my mind was, but you had 12 years to put something like that in place. It was not. I heard on yesterday's press conference presentation by the leader of the opposition that he intends that to be one of the first things he does in his first 100 days if his party wins the upcoming general elections. Now, politicians have promised a lot of things, and they have not delivered on many of those.
NGOs, the private sector, and unions are calling for an investigation of John Saldivar. The Christian Workers Union said today it supports the call by the Public Service for an immediate investigation of the former Minister of National Security, Belmopan Mayor Khalid Bilal, and others involved in the Dermont scandal. The CWU is also expressing disappointment that the Prime Minister failed to keep his promise to fire any minister revealed to have lied to him and Cabinet about taking money from Lev Dermon and Jacob Kingston. The CWU says that the heavy clouds of corruption hanging over the government because of Saldivar's history of suspect dealings have made a mockery of the pledges of accountability and transparency on which the UDP came to power. The union is also calling for immediate laws on campaign finance to prevent any repeat of recent events. There is a renewed call for unity within the fractured United Democratic Party, following a week of turmoil that has seen its elected party leader ousted from the post less than 3 days after being voted in overwhelmingly by the UDP delegates. While Farber is still on the fence with his candidacy, he urges members of the party to put aside internal differences in an attempt to win a 4th consecutive term.
Well, I think that is known by now. There are a number of other factors. As I've said, it can be no secret anymore, and most people have already determined this, that the selection of the delegates, for instance, was not done by the book as it ought to have been. But as I've said, I don't want to lament on this. This is not something that I complained about. Other things were included, influence from powerful forces in the party, financial forces, as well as in terms of the leaders of our party. But it makes no use now to cry. I went into that convention knowing of those handicaps and believed that the people of our party, those who were afforded the right to vote, would have been able to see past all that, and it didn't happen. So for me, it is a lesson learned, and it also is a lesson that, in fact, so many of my colleagues continue to not support me in the manner in which a leader needs to be supported, so that I have to look at things and determine how I can improve on those relationships if it is I'm going to offer myself again. And so rather than look back and try to find the reasons and make excuses as to why I wasn't successful, I'd much rather look ahead and look for ways in which I could then make sure that the mistakes that were made in the last convention, and even if you argue they're not mistakes and they were happenings, to ensure that those happenings don't occur again whenever given the opportunity. I'm fortunate that, in fact, an opportunity is once again presenting itself so early, and it is still yet to be determined whether I will take that opportunity, but of course, whether or not I am able to withstand and fix some of the issues that plagued that convention are all going to be determinants in my process of discerning whether I should offer myself again.
Now, the person who most of the support has gone behind in the wake of Sunday, that is Deputy Prime Minister Hugo Patt, has essentially said that he is content with the post that he currently holds. In other words, he doesn't have any immediate desire to run for party leader. Is it now a consideration for you, considering that perhaps there's no one else in the immediate future that would be offering him or herself for that vote?
Well, I don't know that that is his position, honestly. I believe that there are many who are urging him to put himself forward. I have heard some say that he feels that he's not quite ready for such an undertaking, but I have not heard him say himself, quite honestly. But that, of course, has to be a factor in what it is I am trying to determine. But for me, there are many other factors, including the fact that we need to be very united at this time. I need the support of the majority of my colleagues, not just a simple majority either. We far along in terms of the timeline leading to these general elections that we can't afford to not get it right this time. And so it must mean that if I am to do this, or anybody who is to do this, must have the support, and I don't mean just lip service, I mean full committed support, everybody's shoulders to the wheel to support such a leader that we are able to deliver the victory for the UDP.
At Farber, we also asked him about his poor performance in the convention results. In reflecting on Sunday's turnout, Farber acknowledges that throngs of supporters came out to vote for their leader of choice. Farber does, however, admit that there was a moving hand behind the results of the convention.
Well, the turnout on Sunday was a marvelous turnout. I'll begin there. That I think that despite the outcome, and particularly the outcome for me, it was a wonderful display of support for the United Democratic Party. I was very pleased to see all supporters who came from all corners of this country. So in that respect, it was a wonderful day for the UDP. And we're very disheartened by much of the events that followed the wonderful day that we had. It's never a happy time for me when the kind of happening you've seen, in fact, the resignation of our party leader-elect and also a cabinet colleague leave the cabinet. And while some may believe that that should be cause for me to rejoice, I certainly don't rejoice in that. It is rather unfortunate. And it is never something good for the wider party. So in that sense, I think our party has indeed taken a blow. Also, when there is this perceived idea of wrongdoing, then that never works well for our party. And so, all in all, I think that these events following Sunday are not events that we can say we wish never happened to our party.
Where do you stand in all of this? I would gather that you have had some time to sit down and contemplate what your next move is. I know you put your heart and soul into the convention of Sunday, and while it never materialized in your favor, perhaps there's still another opportunity for you to offer yourself once again. Is this a consideration you've made, or where do you stand insofar as that?
Well, I've said publicly, and it really is my position, that I will use the next few days, especially over this weekend, to do my own reflection. I will be genuine with people and say that, in fact, Sunday's convention was a lesson learned for me in many respects. And so I will put all the pieces together, and of course I've been talking to my colleagues. I've met with the party leader, the Right Honorable Dean Barrow, as well, and I have been trying to see how well I can put all of this together to determine whether or not I will place my name in the ring again. I hope to do so by early next week. I was thinking maybe Monday, but it would seem that a little bit more consultation would be needed. Quite a few of my colleagues have taken off. You know, we've been involved with this campaign for a few weeks, and so this is the first free and available weekend. So it may be difficult to touch base with some of them, or at least all of them, on this weekend. So I'm looking at some point by Tuesday or Wednesday or so, making my final determination of whether or not I am going to contest.
Earlier this month, representatives of the Belize National Teachers Union met with the Ministry of Education in Belize in an effort to find common ground over disagreements regarding amendments to the education rules. Both parties were at odds over proposed amendments, which cover all vacation periods, gives the Chief Education Officer the sole power to determine those periods. Discussions were also had over continuing professional development hours which the teachers require in order to successfully obtain their teacher's license. According to President Elena Smith, some of the teachers are not satisfied with what the union managed to agree with the ministry. BNTU President Senator Elena Smith provided an update.
As with everything, we never get 100%. So we do have some teachers, we had meetings with 3 branches the past few days, and those teachers are satisfied. But we do have other teachers that we know from other branches who wanted, especially for the CPD hours, they wanted to be reduced by half. And so those persons are not satisfied with the reduction that we got. Let me first clarify any misconceptions. We have never said that our teachers must not take part in professional development. That has never been our position. Our position is that what the ministry and management offer to our teachers does not allow them to attain the 120 CPD hours, and that is the issue. You cannot tell me that I must have these things in order to renew my license if you don't provide it. So how can you penalize me for something that is beyond my control?
The embattled John Saldivar has just released a 3-page release on those text messages. With mounting calls for an investigation and with the U.S. watching, Saldivar now says that the messages presented in the Utah court do not appear to accurately reflect his recollection of any conversation with Jacob Kingston. He then goes on to say that Kingston's credibility as a witness is highly questionable and expert scrutiny of the text messages reveals serious discrepancies and creates high suspicion of being deliberately manufactured. Saldivar maintains that he was not bribed by Lev Derman and was never a part of any discussion to move any money from the United States to Belize. He states he never involved himself in any act of corruption or wrongdoing, but admits that he did receive campaign contributions from Derman, but those were not tied to any favor or quid pro quo. Hence, it was not illegal or improper. Saldivar says he did not speak out before because he was in the middle of a heated battle for the leadership, and had he so done, he would have been removed from cabinet and Farber would have been the new leader. He goes on to apologize and repeats his innocence. He also offers a lengthy explanation about meeting with potential donors since he has to help his constituents. According to Saldivar, if politicians are going to be held criminally liable when they accept financial contributions from persons who later turn out to be criminals, then all politicians are in jeopardy, including some from his party. The full text of his statement can be seen on our Facebook page at facebook.com/news5live. Fraudsters have made Belize their haven. Even as the fallout from the Lev Derman saga continues, new reports in the U.S. say a Bitcoin businessman from Bath, Ohio, USA, was indicted on Tuesday for conspiracy to launder monetary instruments, operating an unlicensed money transmitting business, and transmitting money without a license. He is identified as Larry Dean Harmon, who owns property in Belize. According to the news reports, the properties of Harmon in the U.S. and Belize were searched. $300 million in cryptocurrency was used by customers to make illegal purchases from the darknet marketplace. Harmon reportedly advertised the services he offered through his company, Alpha Bay, through an operation called Helix, which was known for its illegal activity that included drug deals and much more. If convicted, Harmon could face up to 17 years in jail. The Main brothers, namely Ellis, Tyrone, and Shaquille, all got bail today when their attorney, Dickie Bradley, successfully argued before Supreme Court Justice Antoinette Moore that someone being accused of being a member of a street gang, the offense for which they are charged, is not reason enough to deprive the brothers of their freedom. The prosecution had produced photos showing a basketball court on Bannock Street, where the brothers' family home is situated, with graffiti, as well as other photos showing them displaying gang signs and tattoos. But Justice Moore agreed with Bradley and offered the brothers bail of $10,000 each. The brothers had appeared last week, Friday, before Justice Moore to be considered for bail, but there was a delay because the police had not yet completed taking statements from witnesses to have the case file completed for consideration. Hence, it was deferred until today. But Bradley told News 5 that after the bail proceedings, that some of the evidence brought against the brothers date back to almost 2 years.
So the argument is centered mainly on what is the new information, which is not new. And I will not call any names, but there is a statement here dated 18th of October 2018 to say that intelligence gathering information shows that there is tattoos on the persons, that on the Facebook they pose with other persons who are supposedly gang members, and they have various signs that show that these are supposedly gang signs. That is not enough to take the citizen of Queens and keep them in prison until the matter is tried. And the learned trial judge has said that in the circumstances she's going to grant bail, and that bail is in the sum of $10,000 for each of the brothers. None of the three persons have ever been convicted of anything in the courts of this country. They have been arrested frequently, regularly, but we all know the police are targeting the young men in the city of Belize. We all know that there is a running battle in the streets of Belize between young persons, particularly young black men, some of whom, of course, should be in prison. Let's admit that some of them are not trying to do good, they're trying to do bad. But in this case, we're hoping that what has transpired, the fact that they know they are being targeted, they know that they are being watched, photographed, lies are being told, that their lives are also in danger. So bail was granted.
The brothers are expected to appear in the magistrate's court on March 24th for the case against them to commence. They were charged about 2 weeks ago with being gang members of a street gang, namely the Bannock Street clique. He was captured in Puerto Cortes, Honduras on February 12th and will be handed over to Belizean authorities in the days to come. But today, the police obtained a warrant in the first instance to formally arrest and charge Rebel Arzu for murder. The Belizean mechanic with Honduran heritage is originally from Independence Village and escaped to Honduras after he was wanted for the killing of Geraldine Flowers in Dangriga. The murder occurred on July 28 of 2019, and Arzu had evaded police until 2 days ago when he was captured by Honduran authorities. In the Supreme Court, Justice Colin Williams also handed down sentencing for Valentine Baptist, who was convicted for the murder of Devin Parham. Valentine was sentenced to 30 years with effect of December 2019 when he was found guilty. Due to the time he has spent behind bars, Baptist is looking at 26 years and 7 more months in prison. Baptist opened fire on Devin Parham as he walked on Cemetery Road on July 6, 2016, along with a cousin. Devin sustained multiple gunshot wounds, and Baptist was arrested after he threw a pistol into a yard on Dean Street. And stay tuned, there's much more news after the break.
With a bigger, better showroom, Universal Hardware brings in the 2020 era with 2 days of festivities. Our Friends and Family Sale Day in Spanish Lookout is just around
Jamoke Castro, son of UDP Cabinet Minister Edmund Castro, was in the hot seat after he made vile comments on social media against Plus TV's Shasta Wade. Jamoke, who is a member of the Public Service Union, threatened Wade with gang rape, attracting widespread condemnation and disgust. He was placed on administrative leave from the Belize Tax Service, and the PSU Service Union condemned Jamoke's actions. However, the union's industrial relations officer later wrote to the financial secretary, Joseph Waite, telling him that Castro maintains that he did not contravene regulations and has committed no major misconduct during the performance of the functions of his post. PSU President Gerald Henry says that while the union condemns Castro's actions, it is the legal mandate of the union to defend one of its members.
One of the key components of the union is to have representation for its members. Hence the reason why, but at the same time, we don't condone the wrongs that our members do. So that's why you see it looks conflicting, but it truly is not, because we are not condoning his actions. That was the first thing that went out, and then the second thing that went out was that there must be due process at all times, and that is where the representation part comes in. It's unfortunate that the letter got leaked, right? And it shows that that things aren't the way they're supposed to be, because someone is obviously wanted to make mischief, right? But again, the union remains strong in its position that there must be due process. And in fact, if we had not taken that position in terms of representing Brother Castro, then he could have sued the union, right? And so that is key, that people have to understand that the union must represent its membership by law, right? And so it's a legal position that the union had to take, you see. But at the same time, like I said, we don't condone it. And if the legal process, in terms of the administrative process, proves that he will be disciplined in whatever way, then we are okay with that. It's just that it must be done fairly. Simple as that.
The Supreme Court has struck out the claim by the Public Service Union against Simplex Design Limited. The union had filed a lawsuit against the Belmopan City Council, the Ministry of Natural Resources, and Simplex Design Limited over its Hilltop headquarters. The court ruled that Simplex Design is the legal owner of the property. But according to President Gerald Henry, the union's case against the City Council is still before the courts. According to Henry, the union has not received any eviction orders and is in negotiation with the company to allow them to properly vacate the property.
The position where we are at right now is that we are still in court. As you have heard, that Simplex has been removed from the case, which basically means that the court has essentially recognized Simplex as being the owners. With regards to the eviction, we have no such actual notice of eviction per se from Simplex based on what the lawyer had said. No, we actually have not had any eviction notice from them. We are also in negotiations with them, in fact, right, for them to perhaps look at affording us some time to evacuate the building when that time comes, no. But eventually, sometime down the road, we perceive that to happen because, like I said, the court seems to be taking the side that Simplex is the actual legal owners, right? So that's the direction that we are headed. With regards to the other side of it, in terms of the relationship that we have with the Belmopan City Council and our case against them, because remember we had a case against the Belmopan City Council as well. That is ongoing, and we are looking. I think we are looking positive in that regard.
Police Constable Erwin Hernandez of Corozal Town, charged with keeping a firearm and ammunition without a gun license, was also lucky to get bail today when he appeared before Justice Antoinette Moore. Hernandez is charged along with his brother Ronnie Hernandez, a construction worker of Hall's Layout, Corozal. The charge against them originates from an incident when police searched the roof of a building at the Corozal Free Zone where the brothers were socializing on February 6th, which yielded a stolen gun. The brothers were granted bail in the sum of $10,000 each. P.C. Hernandez was ushered through the back door of the Supreme Court by his fellow police officers to avoid getting captured on camera, while his brother was escorted through the front to await their papers for bail to be processed. Darren Gonzalez, who was originally charged with murder, was today granted bail after the charge was reduced to manslaughter. Gonzalez, the man wearing locks in the video, is accused of setting a guest house in Hopkins Village on fire, in which Jorge Magana lost his life on May 20th, 2018. Police had claimed soon after the incident that Gonzalez had set some barrels under the guest house on fire with the intent to kill Magana and another man, but in court the prosecution adjusted the charge to manslaughter. Attorney for Gonzalez, senior counsel Simeon Sampson, secured bail of $10,000. Meanwhile, Brandon Cho, the man seen being escorted out of court beside Gonzalez on the video, was also granted bail on 2 charges of aggravated assault. The body of an elderly man was discovered this morning on the beach in Placencia. 77-year-old fisherman Enrique Castellanos was reported missing on Thursday, and less than 24 hours later he was found dead. It is believed that the resident of Riverdale area in Stan Creek District drowned. Police say the body was checked and no signs of injuries were observed, so foul play is not suspected. When we come back, over $100,000 in grants are awarded to improve the management of 3 protected areas in Belize.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
Forests across the world are disappearing at an alarming rate, and because deforestation causes almost 20% of global emissions, the preservation of trees is important to slow down climate change. About 2 years ago, Belize was recorded as having 59% of its forest cover, with a deforestation rate of 0.6% per year for the last couple decades. But it has been documented that in areas where there are increased developments, the deforestation is about 4 times higher. But a UN initiative called REDD+ is being rolled out to help countries slow the pace of climate change. REDD+ seeks to reduce emissions from deforestation and forest degradation with an aim to bring benefits to surrounding communities. Communities are now being sensitized as a part of the introduction of this mechanism. News 5 traveled to Las Cuevas Research Station in the Chiquibu on Thursday for the opening of a 2-day sensitization workshop. Here's the story.
Forests, make up a big part of Belize's terrain, and they also play a vital role in regulating the climate and are critical to addressing the impact of climate change. The value of a forest to tackle climate change is seen in its ability to reduce emissions from deforestation and degradation and to enhance carbon stocks. So a mechanism called REDD+ seeks to tap into the value of forests. The method compensates countries to protect their forests. But in order for it to work, the indigenous communities that live around or inside forested areas must understand how REDD+ works. So in Belize, the National Climate Change Office, through REDD+, is working to raise the profile of this incentive-based program. The West is one of 3 regions where REDD+ is expected to be implemented. So on Thursday, REDD+ Belize opened a 2-day immersion and sensitization program for a group of students.
It's just to feel the experience of the forest, feel the experience of what it really means when you're really talking, because most of the people are just talking about the forest, but they don't have the experience of enjoying in a way. So it's more or less sharing the information that so far we have achieved in this readiness process here in Belize. Start engaging them at the early stage. As I said before, no, they are the next generation. It's not a point where you just create capacity among adults and then leave the next generation without really knowing. So we want to engage them because they will take over sooner or later. So the idea is that they start getting the concept of REDD+, because so many people are talking about that without really understanding. We want to be sure that they start understanding. This is part of what the readiness process of REDD+ here in Belize has to do. It's part of our mandate. And this is one of the events of many that will come with the students.
The talk of climate change, carbon stocks, and forest degradation can be technical, so to simplify it for students, facilitator Tanya Santos-Neal has localized the topics inside the classroom and provide them with field activities to learn firsthand about the complex topics in the context of REDD+ in Belize.
What we're doing here is trying to break it down in language that the young people can understand, bringing it into the context of their daily lives, showing them, okay, when we talk about climate change in your community, this is what it means. You'll see more frequency of floods, you'll see higher intensity floods, for example, or in certain regions you'll be having drought. Maybe some of you are children of farmers or have other family who are farmers and are suffering some of the consequences. We even brought into light the concept of the eutrophication that took place in the New River. And so it's bringing it in very real examples that they can relate to on a daily basis, and also including with what they themselves can do to help mitigate those effects of climate change. We have a field trip shortly this afternoon where we'll go out to one of the sustainably managed forest areas here in the Chiquibo Forest Reserve, where they will see firsthand how actual sustainable management occurs in the forest. They will see all the work that goes into establishing the plans, which involve tree inventories, which involve targeting which trees are going to be left as seed trees for future crops. They're going to see how the entire chain of how the logging occurs in a sustainable manner, from the planning to the falling, and then the production for export of good quality, soundly produced timber in Belize.
40 students from 4 high schools in the Cayo districts are participating in a number of activities during the 2-day workshop. These students are members of school environmental clubs who are hoping to use the sessions to raise awareness in their schools and wider communities.
I'm hoping to learn more about climate change, and I want to carry out a message to the people of Belize to teach them about what climate change is. And for those who don't know what climate change is a change in the expected pattern of the weather. And I also want Belize to know that it is simple, like just picking up a piece of garbage on the side of the road. You can change the nation of Belize.
My club and I were here because we want to learn more about how we can, as a youth, can make an impact in the environment or community, and how we can set an example to teach others to follow.
Is there any specific thing maybe that you don't know enough about and that you're hoping to learn about over these days?
Yeah, climate change, and we want to make people aware of what's going on around the world.
The Central American Community Agroforestry Indigenous and Peasant Coordinating Association is helping Belize to get ready for REDD Plus as one of the implementers on the ground. Representative James Mesh says that they expect to support the environmental clubs to push the conservation message of REDD Plus.
Would come in their schools, and then we follow up with the leaders of the school and with the students to see if information was passed on. Or sometimes they themselves, they would call meetings, like for example we have a club here today, and then they would pass on the information to the other students in their schools. So we come and we follow up to see if the information is being passed on, and if in whichever way we can support them later on, then we continue doing that.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
St. Ignatius High School, Sacred Heart College, Mount Carmel High School, and Mopen Technical High School participated in the workshop which concluded today. 3 protected areas within the Belize National Protected Area System received funds today to strengthen the management of their sites. A brief ceremony was held today to hand over the funds to the awardees. News 5 was there to find out more about how the funds will help the grantees. Here's the story.
The Belize Nature Conservation Foundation awarded $113,000 in grants to improve the management of 3 terrestrial protected areas in Belize. The funding is primarily for park management, training, and research.
The Belize Nature Conservation Foundation provides grants to registered terrestrial protected areas managers involved in conservation and management for the sustainable use of Belize's natural resources. Eligible projects must fall under general categories such as general park management, and that includes protection, environmental education, equipment. It includes training and also research. The Belize Nature Conservation Foundation funding has been critical in maintaining management presence, protected areas planning, and in a few cases, building on previous BNCF investments in some of the protected areas.
5 organizations applied for the 13th cycle of grants from the BNCF. 3 of those 5 applications were approved. The 3 grantees are Steadfast Tourism and Conservation Association, which received $35,000, the Community Baboon Sanctuary Women's Conservation Group, and Mayflower Bukawina Environmental and Development Group, each received $39,000.
We saw that one of our conservation targets was the keel-billed mudmud, but no prior data had been collected for that species or bird populations in general in the national park. So with that in mind, we decided to make that an important aspect of our project, just to get data that would inform us of the different trends of distribution and abundance of these populations in the national park, because another aspect of the project was to develop birding programs in the national park. So with that data, we would be able to properly design those programs, because at the end of the day, we do want to, like I mentioned, diversify our income generating activities, but in no way would we want to compromise the biological heritage of these populations.
We will revise, analyze, and update the management plan for a feasible, sustainable time of 5 years. And this is vital for effective management, as well as it will give a clearly defined path for the Community Baboon Sanctuary Women's Conservation Group. The grant funds will also revive the Community Baboon Sanctuary Youth Environmental Group that will assist the community, that will strengthen the Community Baboon Sanctuary relations within the 7 communities, and will assist with educational and community outreach activities that is geared toward environmental education and sustainable use of natural resources in the Community Baboon Sanctuary. The funds will also be used for the Community Baboon Sanctuary Biennial Ecotourism and Commerce Expo.
the establishment of a live barrier with dominant trees at respective boundary areas. So at the MBMP, we have incursions just like any other protected area, mostly to the northeast and southeast of the park, mainly because of the conventional farms that are surrounding that area. So there is an ease of access, and many times we have encounters, and then the perpetrators would say, but I'm not certain where the boundaries are. Although we have GPS at the moment, we find it that this is also a proactive approach that will have these trees as a form of demarcation for our area. So it will help us to improve in our enforcement. So there will be a revolving nursery of 4,000 dominant trees, and the seedlings will be planted along this, for this specific project, along the southern boundary of the park, spanning almost 15 miles. Over 60 part-time employees will be employed from the buffer community of Seagrass.
The Belize Nature Conservation Foundation was established to provide financial support towards research, capacity building, and management of terrestrial protected areas through the Debt for Nature swap between the Belize government and the government of the United States. The BNCF's grant service is supported by Patt. Up to December of last year, 44 grants were given out to 12 NGOs and community-based organizations to strengthen management of 15 registered terrestrial protected areas. Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
Coming up after the break, Cocktails for Manatees takes place tonight, and meet the super baby and super dad of BFLA.
With over 100 years of service excellence in Belize, the Belize Bank Limited recognizes the importance of leading the way as we enter into this fast-growing technological world. Our Belize Bank mobile banking app virtually places a number of banking capabilities in the palm of our customers' hands, anytime, anywhere, through the use of their Android or iOS devices. The Belize Bank, delivering a convenient and enhanced banking experience to meet the demands of our customers' digital lifestyle. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Making proper use of technology, the Port of Belize Limited has added more features to their arsenal of upgrades and safety features. Introducing the Port SMS Notification System. The system does 3 things. Turns. This feature has 4 lanes: commercial, express for the elderly, personal, and small turns for small packages. For each lane, the status will either be booked, meaning you've been assigned a number, and your turn is booked for C and E, meaning your cargo is out of the booking stage and is presently being inspected by customs personnel. Text the word turn to 610-1700, 610-1700. 2. Tally, which means your cargo has been counted and ready for pickup. Text the word tally, space, and your bill of lading or dock receipt number to 610-1700, 610-1700. 3. Charges. It provides loading and excess charges for cargo based on bill of lading number. Text the word charges, space, and your bill of lading number to 610-1700, 610-1700. These features do not require any registration or activation and can be accessed by any BTL or smart number. Port of Belize Limited, a port with a global perspective.
A group of proud parents received gifts today for ensuring that their newborns receive the necessary vaccines in the first years of their lives. Dubbed as supers, the moms and dads, as well as the babies, were honored at a health center on Central American Boulevard for ensuring that the babies grow healthy and are protected from diseases. Here is News 5's Dwayne Moody with a report.
The Belize Family Life Association Maternal and Child Health Care Center at the corner of Central American Boulevard and Mahogany Street in Belize City was the venue for a ceremony to recognize mothers and fathers, as well as their babies, for having met most and in some cases all pre- and postnatal clinic appointments at the medical facility. 30 parents and their babies were invited, of which 12 will be awarded. Chima Odiete is the maternal and child health nurse.
We want to use this special day to recognize them, to tell them how much we appreciate them, how much we love them, and how much we want to encourage them to keep on doing what they are doing. You know, we love them and we want to tell them Happy Valentine's Day. That's why we chose them specially today and get their babies named as the super babies.
There are a number of vaccines that babies receive from birth up to 4 years, which assist with their development and make them impervious to certain illnesses.
Vaccination is one of the key things. Your health and everything comes along with it, prenatal, postnatal. And once you were a mother who had passed all the criteria to be here today, you had to have a criteria. One of the criteria is that your baby, from your pregnancy, you must come to clinic very early. Started like since you missed the period, you come to us and then you went right through with all your visits. Make sure that you do all your appointments with the gynecologist, all your appointments with high risk if you need to, all your appointments at Carl Hushna, a normal delivery or a C-section, and come for postnatal clinic.
It's really very challenging to us, you know, because we know the importance of the babies having their vaccination, especially as at when due. You know, we have vaccinations from birth, which is the BCG. We have the one for 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 7 months, 1 year, 6 months, then up to 4 years. But we always give them appointment to come in.
The super baby honored today was Ophelia Brown. Interestingly, her dad, Orlando, was also selected as the super dad for the event. Orlando says that along with his wife, they never missed an appointment and were the early birds of the bunch.
It's an awesome feeling. I always tell my wife that from the moment she's pregnant and she's coming to the clinic, they take excellent care of both her and when the baby was born. So even though I'm the super dad and she's a super baby, we have to congratulate the super nurses as well because they did an excellent job.
You know, a lot of people, I was talking to these professionals and they're saying that, you know, a lot of people don't understand the importance of coming early at the prenatal care and postnatal care. Talk to us about how was that? Was it challenging for you to make sure that you make the appointment?
Well, my wife, she don't like wake up early, so I would normally get up like 5 o'clock and come to the clinic. The security could tell you we always number 1 or number 2 because, you know, we always come early and we always on time and we always make our appointments.
All the parents and babies walked away with prizes and certificates. Dwayne Moody for News 5.
The 5th annual Cocktails for the Manatees fundraiser, organized by Program Coordinator Jamal Galvez of the Clearwater Marine Aquarium Research Institute, is ongoing at this time at Cucumba Beach on the Old Belize compound. For years, the manatee population in Belize has been at risk due to collisions with boaters in the Belize harbor. There have been many interventions put in place, including no-wake zones along the mouth of the Belize River and other areas where the mammals can be found. Galvez has been active in the conservation campaign and is now asking the community to once again put their money where their mouths are.
People always, the message, they give their concern on social media in regards to the incidents about skill manatees, in regards to manatees that get rescued and how they could help. Well, this is your opportunity to help. This is their time to come out and support Ben Valentine's with the Manatees at Old Belize, Cucumba Beach from 7 to 12 p.m. There will be live music from the Youth Connection Band. DJ Farber is going to be there for entertainment. We will have complimentary finger food all night. There will be a cash bar and many prizes and surprises, silent and live action. Come out with your friends, family. If you don't have a date, no worry, I'll find one for you. You come by yourself, you can find somebody there for you to take a drink with. It's a good cause. Enjoy yourself while you're supporting a good cause as well. Though we're a non-profit organization, we operate based on funding, donations, writing grants and proposals, and this is one of our only local appeal where we get Belizeans or local or people that are in Belize to come out and support a cause that promotes and support the environment of Belize, protect the thing that we as Belizeans, all of us love. So this is an opportunity to contribute and support something while having fun, but contributing to a wonderful cause as well.
By purchasing a ticket valued at only $40, you can contribute to the cause. And that's the news. Don't forget that tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Charlie Hutchinson. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, have a happy and safe weekend. Good night.